He kept saying it'll happen when it happens. I found an insurance EOB for a vasectomy dated 2 months before we started trying. His mom threw us a fertility brunch. I brought the bill and the clinic follow-up. I'm 30F, he's 32M. We've been together 5 years, married for one. We live in Tempe, Arizona, in a sun-baked townhouse with 2 orange trees that drop fruit into our neighbor's yard. We started trying last fall. I hate that word now, trying. It turned something we'd been daydreaming about into a job with apps and thermometers and people saying just relax like my uterus could hear them. His name is Cole. He's in logistics for a company that moves medical devices around the state. He can talk about cold chain storage for hours if you let him. I'm a middle school art teacher. My kids call me Ms. R and draw me with giant eyes and spiky hair, which is both accurate and rude. We decided to stop preventing and see what happens. I deleted my pill alarm, downloaded an ovulation app, bought test strips that turned our bathroom into a tiny lab. Cole joked about science pee. We laughed. We had sex in the boring ways and the creative ways and the we should just so the app doesn't yell at us ways. Every month I watched for signs like I was reading tea leaves. Every month nothing. Cole was fine. That's the word. He was fine about it. It'll happen when it happens, he'd say, pulling me into that chest I love like it could solve molecules. We're young. He was supportive in a general way, rubbed my back when I cried, brought home froyo, Googled foods for fertility, and overcooked salmon. He also started suggesting casually that being just us wouldn't be so bad either, in a way that felt like someone gently moving furniture inside my brain without asking. His mom, Barbara, is the kind of woman who tucks advice into casseroles. She started making us fertility stew and emailing me articles with subject lines like hope. She has this church group that does blessings for couples, which is something you do for people who ask, not people who are trying to make their hearts not seize every time they see a stroller at Target. She booked a fertility brunch at her house for late January, just family and her friends, she said. We'll pray and eat and celebrate what's coming. I told Cole I wasn't comfortable. He said it makes her happy, which was not the same as does it help you? I kept trying. I learned to hate the little hourglass on my app. I started stabbing my finger with a lancet to check progesterone like I was doing a capstone project. I peed on expensive sticks and held them up to the light like the last words of a pirate map would appear. When my period showed up in December, I cried in the staff bathroom at second period and taught the next class how to do watercolor washes with a face that looked 10 minutes old. A week later, I was paying bills at the kitchen table, receipts fanned out, Cole's laptop open because he asked me to schedule his oil change since I was already in admin mode. An email pinged in his inbox, explanation of benefits, urology visit. For a second, I thought it was spam. I clicked because curiosity is a sibling of survival. It was a real EOB from our insurance. Visit, vasectomy consult and procedure. Date of service, August 3rd. Amount billed. Amount covered. Paid. There was a follow-up lab, semen analysis, October 10th. No sperm observed. Me timed that thick honey thing. I read it twice, 3 times. The words were English and also not. He had a vasectomy. He had a vasectomy 2 months before we started trying. He had a vasectomy, then a follow-up confirming it worked, and then he had pep talks for me about salmon and relaxing. I put the laptop down. My heart was in my throat. I went into the bathroom and threw up, which felt dramatic, and then it didn't. Then I sat on the floor and held our dog, Saguaro, who licked my face like he could turn any scene into a rom-com. When Cole got home, he kissed my head and asked what was for dinner. I looked at him like he was in a witness box. "What's a vasectomy?" I asked, casual like, "What's for dessert?" He blinked, smiled small, misread the scene. "A vasectomy?" He did a little laugh. Reversible thing men do when they're done having kids. Do you have one? I asked. The space between question and answer was an entire hour for me, and about half a second in real life. He froze and then shifted into the I can talk my way through this mode I'd seen on calls with shipping carriers. Babe, he said. Okay. Yes. I panicked. He sat, hands up like I was a skittish animal. I scheduled it when we had that first pregnancy scare in June, he said. You cried in the car when you thought you might be pregnant? You said you were scared to be a mom. It freaked me out. I thought I was doing the responsible thing. In August, I said, 2 months before we started trying. He exhaled, ran a palm over his jaw. I was going to tell you, and then you were so excited in October. You deleted your alarm. You were smiling. I couldn't just crush you. And then I thought, okay, let's try for a bit. Maybe we settle into not having kids. Maybe you realize we're great as is. And if you really, really want to, I'll get a reversal. You let me pee on sticks that meant nothing, I said, and my voice did this quiet thing that feels like when the eye of the storm is directly over your house. He winced. You let your mom plan a fertility brunch, I said. I told her not to, he said weakly. She doesn't listen. You watched me think my body was broken, I said. He flinched hard. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought. He stopped, shook his head. That's not an excuse. I was a coward. We sat in silence while the dog sighed like an old man. It was one of those moments where you feel like you're watching yourself on a stage. The version of me that always fixes things took a step forward. The version of me that's done sat back down. When were you going to tell me? I asked. He shrugged at nothing. After the holidays? After your sister's baby shower? After I got the bonus? I kept moving the line. It's a lie, I said. Not a line. Please, he said, leaning forward. I'll schedule the reversal. I'll call tomorrow. It's outpatient. We'll be fine. We can still have kids. I made a mistake. A big one. I'm owning it. I looked at his face, the face I knew better than my own sometimes. He looked genuinely wrecked and also like a man who had put all of us in a maze. Call, I said. Call tonight. He called. The earliest consult was late February. Reversals aren't guarantees. The success depends on time, since the vasectomy, the surgeon, the body being the body. His mom texted me a flyer the next day with pastel crosses and a carved wood sign that said, Bloom? So excited for Sunday, she wrote. We'll keep it small. Just the girls from my Bible study, your aunties, a few friends. God is so good. I typed and deleted 5 versions of absolutely not. I showed Cole. He said, I'll handle it, which is something men say like a spell. He called his mom, and she trimmed the guest list from 20 to just 9. She kept it. We need community, she told him. Thunder rolled somewhere in me. I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling and thought about August, about his body on a table, about him driving home that day and not telling me, about me downloading that app in October and telling him let's try, and him kissing me and saying let's do it, like words were always going to be enough. Sunday came like a prank. I put on a dress because I refused to be the shabby villain in other people's stories. We drove to Barbara's in Chandler. The house smelled like cinnamon and women talking. There were pastel napkins and prayer cards with Hannah on them and a cake that said "In God's Time" in cursive. My mother was there holding a casserole she clearly brought so she could stay out of trouble. My sister, Jess, heavily pregnant, sat like a queen and looked at me like, are we doing this? I shook my head a fraction. Barbara pulled me into a hug and rocked me like I was a baby she'd invented. We're going to storm heaven, she whispered in my ear. Cool, I whispered back. I brought the bill. Cole went to the backyard to help set up chairs and really to breathe. Barbara gathered everyone. "We're here to support Rochelle and Cole," she said, teary, "and this precious child the Lord will send." I took the index cards she handed out and set them on the mantel. She asked me if I wanted to say a few words. My mom's eyes did a tiny no. My sister mouthed, "Please." I stood. I took a breath that felt like jumping in a pool with your phone in your pocket. "I have words," I said. I went to my bag and pulled out the EOB and the lab report. I held them like a weird Bible. "Cole had a vasectomy in August," I said evenly. "He didn't tell me. He let me try and pray and pee on sticks for months." Someone dropped a fork. Someone else said, "Oh, honey," in the way that means I'm disgusted and also on your side. Barbara put a hand to her chest like a silent movie actress. Cole's face went paper white. My mom closed her eyes. Jess said, well, like a punctuation mark. Barbara tried to recover, bless her brittle heart. "Surely there's been some—" "The follow-up in October shows no sperm," I said, "because if you're going to say it, say it. He's scheduling a reversal. We'll see." It's amazing how fast a room that was ready to bless can pivot to a courtroom. Questions flew. Fingers pointed. Cole stammered apologies. He took ownership like a man reading the right manual at the wrong time. Barbara cried for her son. My mom stood next to me like a small lighthouse. Jess ate cake because she is who she is. I wasn't there to humiliate him. I was there because I needed the words to live outside my body. I needed his mother, the woman who had been flooding me with "be patient," to know where the water was coming from. I left after that, polite like a bank robbery. I hugged my mom. I kissed Jess's forehead. I put a hand on Barbara's and said, "I know you love him." She nodded, eyes huge, and said, "I love you too," which made me cry in a way that made me mad because I don't like crying while making my point. Cole followed me to the car. "You didn't have to do that," he said, voice small. "I did," I said, "because I'm done holding your secret." We drove home in silence except for the sound of Saguaro's collar clinking because I forgot to take it off. At home, he tried again. "Please," he said, "don't leave." "I'm not leaving right now," I said, "but we're not okay." He slept in the spare room. I slept in our bed and stared at the ceiling until the fan blades looked like propellers that might lift me somewhere else. Small local sentence: sat at Papago Park the next day with a coffee from Dutch Brothers, watched planes land at Sky Harbor, and let the noise fill the gaps in my head. Updates. Update 1 week later. We started couples therapy. He found a guy in Scottsdale who asked us to each bring our own truth to the first session, which made me want to throw a succulent. Cole said I was scared a dozen ways. I said I was humiliated once, and then I feel stupid 5 times. The therapist said stupid isn't a feeling, which is the kind of annoying thing that is also correct. I went to my OB to get baseline fertility labs just to see. Everything looks fine, which was both a relief and an anger. Cole scheduled the reversal consult. It's expensive and not guaranteed. He offered to pull from his 401k. I said that's the least of it. Barbara called. She apologized for pushing the brunch and for making this about her feelings. "I wanted to be helpful," she said. "I think I was trying to script a miracle." I told her I didn't need a script. She asked if she could bring soup. I said yes because I am not above soup. My mom asked if I wanted to stay at their place for a while. I didn't. I like my bed. I like my dog. I like watching the morning light hit our ugly living room in a way that makes it look like a magazine. My students made papier-mâché masks, and one of them said, "This one is a ghost." And I thought, so am I. And then I laughed like a normal person because life keeps marching with glue. Small Arizona sentence, swung by fries on Rural and Apache and bought 4 avocados because they were on sale and realized in the parking lot that I don't even like avocados that much. Update 2, 3 weeks later. The reversal consult happened. The urologist was frank, we can try. I can't promise. It's been less than a year, which is good. But scar tissue is rude. He said success is measured in sperm showing up again, not in babies, which made me want to throw his pamphlet at the wall and also hug him for the honesty. Cole cried in the car after. He said, I did this like confession was oxygen. I said, you did because I'm finished cushioning. We've had 3 therapy sessions. I'm trying to catch myself when I spin out. He's trying to sit in discomfort without reaching for a joke. We're both failing and then trying again. He wrote me a letter about his fear of fatherhood. His dad left when he was 10. He has this story that becoming a dad means becoming a ghost. I read it twice and didn't know what to do with it except underline the parts that made my chest seize. I do have empathy. I also have boundaries now like little fences. Barbara has pivoted to if you never have kids, you'll have us, which is both sweet and deeply unsettling. My mom took her to lunch and gently explained she was not helping. They came back to my house after and brought me a lemon loaf from Costco and 2 women who were trying very hard not to pick a fight with each other. Small USA local sentence, drove down Mill Avenue on a Friday night and felt 100 years old watching college kids line up for the same bars we used to. Rolled my eyes and then remembered I did shots there and kept rolling. Update 3, 2 months later. We separated bedrooms. He moved into the spare room officially, not just for a few nights. We still eat dinner together sometimes because we are both Midwestern by accident and meals or ceasefires. We also eat separately sometimes because silence is not punishment, it's mercy. Cole had the reversal. It was gross and surgical, and I sat in a waiting room with outdated golf magazines and a woman my mother's age who knitted and offered me a peppermint. He came out woozy and tried to flirt with the nurse. I drove him home and he apologized between naps like he was on an apology for drip. He has a follow-up in 6 weeks to check if anything is flowing. He asked if I would wait with trying to have sex again until after the results. I said yes, because not everything has to be a point. Also because healing is not a straight line, and sometimes the kindest thing you do for yourself is not complicate your hormone soup. Therapy continues. He's doing individual sessions now, too. He told his therapist he wants to figure out why he made a decision on my body without me. That sentence got under my fingernails. I don't know if it's enough. I know it matters. Jess had her baby, 7 pounds, loud and smug. I cried when I held her and then cried when I got home because joy and grief are neighbors and rarely mind their fences. Cole held her too, and his face did something. I can't read it anymore. I'm too tired to guess. Small Arizona sentence, drove to Saguaro Lake early on a Saturday, sat by the water with a breakfast burrito, watched old men launch fishing boats like they were sending ships into battle. Update 4 months later. His post-op analysis showed sperm. Not a lot. Enough to make the doctor give a thumbs up and say we're back in the game, which made me hate him for half a second, and then I apologized silently to his diploma. It's not a baby, but it's biology moving, which is what we needed to get past the gate in my brain that says never. Cole suggested we try when I'm ready. I said I'm not ready, saying it felt like slicing a knot. He looked stunned. He assumed my only obstacle was his vasectomy. Turns out, trust is an organ too. It doesn't regenerate on a schedule. Barbara apologized again. A better apology? No. But I maniaed at first. Then she started dropping off groceries like a quiet love language. Bananas, eggs, sourdough. She stopped saying God's timing. She started saying, what would you like me to do? It helped. I've made a list of practical things: joint and separate bank accounts, logins, shared and audited, a credit freeze for me, calendar, transparency, both of us. It was unsexy and felt like putting up baby gates. Maybe that's what we need. I went to a yoga class in Phoenix with my friend Maya and spent half of it in child's pose, which felt on the nose and also correct. The teacher said, "You are safe," which made me cry because my nervous system did not agree. Small local sentence. Stopped at In-N-Out on Baseline on the way home and ate fries in my car with the AC blasting because it's May in Arizona and she has feelings. Update 5, 6 months later. We decided to separate for real, not a break, a separation. He found a month-to-month place in Mesa. He took his vinyl, his ugly gray chair that he loves, and the plant he insists he can keep alive. We split the dog like divorced parents in a sitcom, which makes me want to vomit but also keeps Saguaro happy. We set a schedule that made my Google Calendar look like a daycare chart. We wrote a statement for family because the gossip machine needed oil we weren't willing to provide. We're taking space to decide what our marriage looks like, it said, and it was both slippery and true. My mom cried. Barbara baked muffins and didn't push. For progress. I went on a walk with a colleague, Jonah, who is the PE teacher and the person who makes me laugh in staff meetings when the new tech rollout inevitably implodes. He didn't try to flirt. He said, "That's a lot, and you're not crazy," which is a love language. I am not dating anyone. My heart is compost. It needs time to turn into soil you can plant in. Cole sent me a screenshot of his therapy homework. Identify your why. His answer said, fear of disappearing into responsibility. I hope he finds a better why. I hope I do too. Small USA local sentence. Went to First Fridays in downtown Phoenix and bought a weird ceramic mug from a guy who said, "I make faces on cups because it keeps me from yelling at cars." Update 6, 9 months later. We filed with the court for legal separation, which in Arizona is different than divorce and keeps some protections. The clerk handed us forms like we were signing up for a club no one wants to join. It felt grown and stupid and necessary. Cole is steady in therapy. He's gone to a men's group through a community center where old guys talk about fatherhood and young guys talk about how not to be their fathers. He invited me to a session for partners. I went. I cried there and also felt like I was watching a species I'm not, a group of men trying to learn feelings like a foreign language. We had dinner after. We talked without barbs and he said, "I miss you." I said, "I miss the you who didn't lie to me." It wasn't a dagger. It was an atlas. My kids made self-portraits in Scratchboard. One of them drew himself with open hands. I went home and tried to do the same emotionally. I did not succeed, but I tried. Jess asked if I wanted to be godmother. I said yes because faith is not a constant. It's a series of tiny yeses sometimes. Her baby grabbed my finger and I felt the smallest click of hope dusting off a chair. Small local sentence, took a day trip to Jerome, ate fudge, looked down over the switchbacks, and felt small in the best way. Update 7, 1 year later. We signed divorce papers. I didn't think I'd write that. We tried. We really did. But every time we got close, something in me flinched. You can survive a lie. You can also decide you won't build a family on it, even if the structure holds. We split assets clean, no alimony, kept it civil. He cried in the car after. I cried in my shower, which felt practical. The weird cliché of a teacher dating a PE teacher became less weird. Jonah and I had coffee. It was soft. He knows all of it. He doesn't ask me to be anything except rested. We are moving slow, which is both unsexy and the sexiest thing I can imagine. Cole texted me a photo of a sunrise on his morning run. "Hope you're good," it said. I wrote back, "I am." It wasn't performative. It was mostly true. Barbara and I had lunch. She handed me a envelope with a check from her and her husband for whatever, she said, eyes full. I gave it back. She nodded. We hugged. She said, I'm sorry I made you into a story in my head that you didn't approve. I said, I do that too. We laughed like weary people. Small Arizona sentence, bought a Polita from a cart in our neighborhood and it dripped on my wrist and I didn't wipe it right away because sticky can just be sticky for a minute. Update 18 months later. I moved into a new place in South Scottsdale with a quirky backyard and bougainvillea that hasn't decided whether it loves me. Saguaro has a patch of sun he claims at 3 p.m. without fail. Jonah is around often. He has a drawer. It doesn't scare me. That surprises me more than the divorce ever did. Cole is dating someone, according to Barbara, who has stopped telling me things unless I ask. I didn't ask. I started a ceramics class on Tuesday nights. I make bowls that wobble and mugs that gossip. My hands hurt in the best way. I sleep better. My kids call me so zen now, and I laugh because they don't know where zen comes from. Ugly crying and paperwork. If you're reading this with an EOB open on your table and your stomach in your knees, I'm sorry. You're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're not overreacting. A secret about your body made without you is not something you have to swallow in the name of peace. You can blow it up gently. You can blow it up gently. You can say it out loud at a brunch with a cake that says, "In God's time." You can refuse to be the only one who knows. You can leave if you need to. You can stay and try if you want to. You can change your mind. You can forgive. You cannot. None of that makes you less good, less worthy, less woman. The only thing you can't be is the person who pretends it didn't happen. That person gets smaller. You don't have to be small. A small USA local sentence, sat on the curb outside Cartel Coffee on First Avenue, sipped an iced latte, watched a dust devil pet, a parking lot, and for a full minute I didn't remember August. I just remembered the taste of coffee and the heat on my shins. Final tiny note. People attach hope to circles, rings, cycles, community prayer chains. My circle broke. It also widened. I found other hands in it, my sisters, my mother's, a friend's, and knitting strangers' peppermint. I used to think courage was big, loud. It might just be standing in a kitchen and saying that was a vasectomy and letting yourself be the kind of person who says hard things plainly. If that's you today, I see you. Eat the cake, bring the bill, and when you're ready, put it down.